We are very excited to have back in the States Julia Doubleday. She has been on a whirlwind tour of this global South. Julia, welcome back. Oh, I'm sorry, your background is not exciting enough after looking at your Instagram for the last few months.
Well, you can't believe everything you see on Instagram, but it was very fun.
I mean, I can believe everything I see on Instagram when you're in like Mexico City, then Chile, then Argentina, and then Brazil. Like, what?
Yeah, you got them. Those were the big ones.
That actually happened. What was your favorite observation from studying the rise of the fascist right in many of these countries, and maybe some people palling around with them because they they need them?
So I spent the most time in Chile, and we're really going to see, what happens with the runoff in the next few days. So today is the 17th. The runoff is the 19th. It's Sunday.
What do you mean by that? Explain for folks who are not as
So there was the first round of the presidential election, as well as a lot of other elections while I was in Chile last month. I think it was November 21st or something like that. It was a Sunday. I mean, they were actually really surprised when I told them we always vote on Tuesdays. They thought that was weird.
Yeah,
like, why would you vote on weekdays? And then I told them we also don't get off work, and they were very confused by that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
wait till they hear about our healthcare system.
Yeah, they've heard about
student loans. Do you know about that one? I love when I talk to foreigners about student loans. They're like, what?
Yeah, I did. I talked about that as well. And I was explaining how I know people who have interest only payments that are $1,000 a month. And they were just totally confused. But anyway, yeah. So in the first round of that presidential election, there were about 6 or 7 candidates. The 2 top candidates went to a runoff because if nobody gets a majority over 50% of the vote, then they automatically go to a runoff. So Jose Antonio Konst, who is this very, very far right-winger, proto-fascist Trump supporter, who wants to sort of build this access of right-wing power with Bolsonaro and Trump, who I think, it hasn't been as discussed, I don't think, in this country, but I think a lot of people around the world wouldn't be too surprised to see Trump back in office in the next couple of years. He is in a runoff with Gabriel Boric, who is the left-wing, sort of Bernie Sanders-esque democratic socialist. Actually, one of the critiques I heard of him while I was there was actually from the left. People on the left don't think he's far enough left. So sort of that classic dynamic that happens on the left. One of the things that was really shocking in the first round of the elections was that Jose Antonio Konst came in first place. Mostly people were expecting Boric to come in first in the first round and to go to the runoff. I did speak with people who weren't even expecting Konst to go to the runoff. I think that was sort of a minority opinion, but there were sort of more centrist right-wing figures who had an initial lead who ended up sort of dropping behind Konst. So Konst won. He got the most votes in the first round, and everybody is very anxious to see what happens in round 2. I think the one thing that could bode well for the left is that people were really freaked out by him getting first place. So there may be some leftists who were more on the fence about coming out and, now will maybe vote to prevent, the same way that we, a lot of leftists came out and voted for Biden. We voted to get rid of Trump. Hopefully that could motivate some on the left. But I don't think overall it looks great. I mean, the polling has closed a lot in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think that it's too close to call.
Okay, so Julia, there's a different type of fear, though. I understand on the left in places like Chile and Argentina, where they have had such horrific, recent histories, including children being rounded up and stolen, and while their parents were murdered because they either were actual leftists or just worked at a place that had a union at it. It's horrifying. And so there's the disappearing children. There's just, of course, the right-wing dictators. And, there isn't a lot of in between. What gave rise to a lot of these right-wing dictators were those who, maybe initially were on the center left, or the fact that the CIA installed certain folks that appeared to be, center left. So I understand the frustration here from a lot of folks. Is that where you feel like this is coming from? Is it a different type of like, we don't trust him than like, whatever that is in the US?
I think that the left is always fractured wherever you go, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's always painted as this like circular fire squad, and there's infighting, and I think that that's true to a degree. But I also think it's just what happens when you have a free exchange of ideas. I mean, it's true that there's this sort of really solid block of opinion when it comes to authoritarian capitalists, but like the reason for that is because they're authoritarians. I mean, like you're not going to have the same kind of just like uh strength of just total commitment to one particular leader with one particular set of ideas that you have on the right, just because that's the nature of having a community that is more egalitarian, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not a bad thing to have disagreements, and it's not a bad thing to have different opinions. I think when it becomes difficult is when those wars between people on the left sort of empower the right to grasp more power. But I don't think that there's like this easy solution that's like everyone just stop fighting. Of course, we're not going to stop fighting because that's how progress gets made. I mean, if you look at Ecuador right now, there's like this big fight between indigenous peoples who say, we have to stop exploiting the resources. And then the sort of more traditional left who's like, let's keep exploiting the resources, but let's keep the money for ourselves, as opposed to, having it go to the US
Like a
corporate
nationalized,
actors.
yeah.
Right. So, I mean, like, that's a real discussion. It's not just something where we can say, okay, well, let's just not fight about it anymore. The other thing we have to keep in mind is that when you get told like there shouldn't be infighting, very often what you default to is the people with more power should get to decide. So like in that fight between indigenous people and the sort of more center left that's had power, obviously we would default to, okay, well, the people who have some power and the people who want to keep using these resources, that we should all not fight with them. It's never we should all not fight with the indigenous people. So I don't think the solution is just to say, well, we can't infight, because that's the nature of democracy. That's what democracy is. It's fighting.
And that's what, the left is. It's more democracy. I mean, that's what, when people ask, Bernie Sanders, well, how do you define democratic socialism? He's like, more democracy. And it's interesting because like, that is actually the fight that we're having in the States. We don't usually see it from that perspective, but, lessening our dependence on foreign oil is a very center left take. And that was the excuse that the Obama administration used for expanding hydraulic fracking, basically, was to lessen our dependence on oil from, Saudi Arabia. And
that was always a joke. I mean, we can't.
Well, but the leftists, of course, I mean, we're not here to argue about that, but like the leftists, of course, were saying, no, we don't want that. We just want to completely get off oil. Obviously, we're a country with much, 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 much more resources, and it has a global implication on the actual industry of oil and gas. But throw that out. All right, I want to switch gears just for a second, because I am going to start talking about this a lot, because I believe, I don't know if it's 2024 or beyond, it could be, that Dr. Oz is the Republicans' bet for the White House, not just, through the Senate, of course, partly because this like distrust of every institution out there, preying on people who are in like the health and wellness community. And Dr. Oz is, of course, like a more critical of Western medicine. And he has made a lot of money off of that on shows. He's as well known. He had has a major show on TV, as well known as Donald Trump. So he has the name ID. He's far more charming. He appeals to a lot more women. Likely doesn't have the baggage that Trump did with women. He gets along and used to get along with a lot of Democrats. Seems like we've got a lot of overlap here. And he's not aggressively fascist. So you don't even know you're like falling for him. And this, this simultaneously has happened while the Republicans have really been going after Fauci, which I really didn't understand until this. Let's play some clips of Dr. Oz running for Senate. Oh, I buried the lead. He's running for Senate as a Republican in Pennsylvania from Southern Jersey.
Which I appreciate. What is your position as both a doctor and a senatorial candidate on when life begins? When should we draw the line when abortion is legal?
As a doctor, I appreciate the sanctity of life. And for that reason, I'm strongly pro-life. With the 3 exceptions I've mentioned, that's how I would vote.
And when does that life begin?
Again, if I'm pro-life, then it's a decision that comes back to the sanctity of when you think life does begin. And I believe it begins when you're in the mother's womb.
Oh, God.
When you're in the mother's womb, but that carries you all the way up to 9 months of pregnancy.
No, of course not. Life's already started when you're in your mother's womb. But it's a rat hole to get trapped in the different ways of talking about it. We need, as a nation, to make sure the Constitution is appropriately followed, and people like me, and you may be in the same camp, who are pro-life, have our feelings respected. And this is something that should not be taken away from us by judiciary legislating from the bench.
Yeah, but that's also something that's going to have to be legislated, and that answer is going to have to be given specifically.
What
Listen, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight.
Who is he? What happened? What happened? Oh my God, Julia. Okay, so can we go back to Julia?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know enough about, his background other than he was this sort of talking head on cable news. I think a lot of old people really like him, so I'm sure that's
he was not a talking head on cable. I'll tell you his background. He was on Oprah. He
was on Oprah. Okay, yes.
Yes, he was the health. I know a lot.
Them all in the same
I know
category.
the man.
Like,
Let me just. I know the
old
man.
people watch it. That's what I know.
Yeah. No, not old people. That's the thing. It's not old people
that watch Oprah. No.
Oh, first of all, Oprah hasn't been on air in 10 years. But her demographics were not old. It was like 30 to also different era when people were watching more TV. This is horrifying.
I seriously doubt you can find a big Oprah fan that's under the age of 40.
Now, because she's not on air.
Right, but that's who he's going to appeal to, is what I'm saying. Like older people,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to your comment about him being the Republican potential nominee, I don't think you're wrong in that, Trump sort of showed that there's this massive opportunity for anyone with any sort of celebrity to kind of jump in and just jump the line. They don't need to spend 30, 40 years waiting in the Senate and building that experience. People don't care. People really don't care. That being said, I still think, like I mentioned, that Trump is the best bet for 2024. Why the fuck would they not run Trump again? I mean, people are obsessed with him for all of the baggage that he has. We know that the party understands the temperature of their electorate and isn't denouncing him. They're not distancing themselves from him. And there's a reason for that, because they know he can come back. And they know that if they piss off their base, they're not going to come out and vote for someone else. So, I mean, if Trump is dead in 2 years, which is totally possible, he's very old, then he won't run and he won't win. But if he's alive, I think there's a good chance he'll run. And I think there's honestly a good chance he'll win as well. And if he gets in there again, I wouldn't plan on him leaving.
He's still, yeah, exactly. He's still under investigation. He's still, I mean, there's some very serious things, like he's now, well, no. I mean, Attorney General Tish James.
I will put money on the fact that man will never suffer any consequences for anything he's done. I will put money on that.
I think that's a very good bet, but he is now going to have to, he actually has to appear before the courts here, which he's done before, but this is a little bit, different.
Nothing but an opportunity for more PR, free PR for Donald Trump. Get up on the stand and just, say a bunch of crazy shit and be in the news.
He'll literally look at the judge and be like, "I appointed you."
Yeah. And then everyone will tweet about it for 2 weeks. So
he'll be like, I went partying with you. He'll be like, your wife's so, whatever. Yeah. You know what he'll say.
We know.
Okay. In other news, while someone who we used to think was a good guy, Dr. Oz, which of course he's not. He's had a PR before. Just I want to make this very clear. He's been in congressional hearings for some of his sketchy takes on things. Of course, when you have a television show that has to come out with like new studies all the time, that's not how the medical field works. There's not like a new study that comes out every day. So he had to keep the audience engaged and excited. So on the other side, you've got the pro wrestling world, which, let's not forget, Donald Trump was a big part of boosting that pro wrestling world. I'm like now in love with this guy. I'm not going to lie. I have a little bit of a crush. The wrestler who had the uterus on his shirt. For those who are not able to see this, definitely Google it on your devices. This wrestler, wait, hang on. Go back up. I'm yelling at David for the audio people to go back up. Okay. So this wrestler, whose name is on a different tweet that I saw, he was on stage and he had a shirt on. It says, "Get your own, then tell it what to do." And there's ovaries. I think this is called being an ally. Oh, wait, if you scroll down a little bit, the next tweet tells you who this wrestler is, I think. It's CM Punk. Yeah, go CM Punk. Are you single? Mm-hmm. He's also very good looking.
We like him. Yeah,
I'm going to objectify him the way
I don't know anything about wrestling or this man, but we can appreciate his pro-choice shirt. I will say it's kind of sad that like this is like such a headline making thing. Yeah. Like, where are the men? Like, where are they? They don't say anything. I mean, actually, when you look at like the sort of people who like celebrity activists, allies, whoever, who are usually tweeting nonstop, like they're pretty quiet. I mean, women, not as much, but yeah, like male celebrities, I haven't seen them saying anything.
Exactly. Male celebrities, men everywhere. This affects you too. I don't know if you realize that. You may not realize it. Sometimes it's hard for men to do 1 + 1, but 1 + 1 equals it also affects you. So mic drop. Thank you, CM. Not that he's like the hero of this, because clearly he's not. He's just an ally, but this is how you be an ally. Go be an ally, guys. Okay. I'm done with Dr. Oz. I know there's another clip, but like I'm over it now. I'm just so angry because he's going to be president. Because he's so charming. That's the problem. He has a different
his brows are very high. I think he had this done.
I think he did too. Little lifteroo.
Everyone gets this done now.
That's brows. For folks to know that Julia lifted her face up a little bit.
Yeah.
The audio folks. Okay. What else do we want to talk about? Okay. Is this the strategy to defeat the people on the left who are dancing with the people on the right? I think some people might be doing this unconsciously. Some people are doing it very strategically. Some people maybe have always been part of the right and just were like dancing with the left for a little bit. This one account, and this, I just want to make this clear. This is in no reflection of my beliefs, but I did think it was a very creative strategy to take this on. We have Brian Bakunin, who has a new site. I just have to give this guy a plug because it's so creative. Let's play it.
Anybody on the left who's considering working with anyone on the right is literally a Nazi enabler. It's got to be war.
But I am sorely disappointed. I have been promised a fascist authoritarian coup directed by Vladimir Putin himself for 4 years now, and I'm getting a little impatient waiting to see how it all goes down.
Anti-establishment populism is not the answer to defeating fascism. Art and music and righteous indignation and laughter and love and fun are. I have arrived to not introduce myself really as much as not me, us, that we all seem to have forgotten since COVID. But remember that slogan and remember that fun we were all having?
Yeah.
Well, you don't seem to have remembered it on your show, so I have come to force the fun.
His whole idea is that he's using humor and disco dancing and art to illustrate what's happening and the rise of the far right. So I thought it was a very creative way of doing this. And
Yeah, I
full
feel like I'm on
disclosure,
acid.
I definitely, if you were watching it, you would definitely get that. I love it, man. I'm like, what are we
I liked
doing with
it.
our show? I got
will
a purple screen. like what are we, I thought this was a lot, like the pink glasses and the purple wall. Okay, you're really
that's good. Yeah, we like that. Yeah, that was a lot. I feel, yeah, like I just went to a really wild party and I need to lie down now.
No, but thematically, like you know, he is one of the few people who's really like breaking it down right now about this thing we've all been complaining about, and we get toggled into these like wars over, you know, vaccine mandates or you know, or masks, or, you know, force the vote, or all these things that they keep bringing up that they're trying to suck us into that debate, rather than talking about the rise of the right and what that pathway is, and talking about, you know, what it takes to build a coalition so that we can defeat the right. Instead, they are creating their own. It's a very like Roger Stone tactic, where Roger Stone used to just put in instigators at all rallies, and then you'd be like, how'd the fights break out? And then it's like, turns out it was the guy being paid by Roger Stone who just went in there and punched a bunch of people. Similar, but, you know, in the media space.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a naivete that comes along with leftists who want to ally with right wingers. And let me also, you know, specify that I'm talking about like there's an anti-establishment left and there's an anti-establishment right. And there are some people on the left who say, well, both of us are outside of power. So both of us have this vested interest in taking down the people who are in power. And what that sort of leaves out of the equation is that leftists want to get into power and create this more equitable world where everyone is reaping the benefits of living in a modern technological society. And, you know, where people shouldn't have to work as much or as hard, and they should be able to have access to healthcare and clean food and water and all of these positive things. And right wingers want to get into power and abuse that power in exactly the same way that the current power structure does, only even fucking worse. So, I mean, like, there's no like give and take in this relationship. Like when the left gets into power, versus when they enable the right to have power, like enabling those people, enabling people like Trump to take power, they're not going to turn around and pat you on the back and be your friend after they get power. You know,
Right.
They're going to fucking kill you. Like,
no,
that's
literally,
what happens every time. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. When right-wing authoritarians ultimately take power, whether it's through populist means, you know, coups that occur from the top down or bottom up, ultimately the first thing that happens is they round up all of their political opponents and they fucking kill them.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily happen like through roundups the way it has historically in other countries. But in our country, they just have an armed force, police force that just runs around and shoots people, and uses whatever excuse and legal defense that they can because they've lobbied for it. Like that is the same thing for folks who like are like, oh, it'll never happen here. It is happening here. It's just got it's just structured a little bit differently. All right, Julia, on that note, they're going to come for you and kill you. Don't align with them.
Yeah. I just think it's never a good idea to trust a Nazi.
Don't trust Nazis. But they don't call themselves Nazis, Julia. Come on.
Some of them do, though, right? I mean, some of them are openly like wearing the like Pinochet did nothing wrong. Like, I'm openly a fascist. Some of them certainly sort of obfuscate that, but then they also ally themselves with all the same ideas. So
Yes.
it's just sort of,
they're like, we're for Medicare for all.
Semantics.
After we kill everybody that's our opponent. God, that's what you don't understand. They say they're for Medicare for all, but that's, you know, in year 2 after they've killed the women, the Jews, the people of color, the indigenous people, the unions, and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
we're not joking, by the way. Like,
I think that we're in a dangerous place, and I think that Trump getting back into power is a big possible, and I think that the Democrats aren't preparing for that. The Democrats are in some kind of delusional alternate reality where Biden getting elected was this massive mandate for things to go back to normal, which of course it wasn't. Nobody wants to go back to normal because normal is what produced Trump.
Well, I'm of the belief that he's not coming back into power, and it doesn't matter because the margins were so small. It doesn't matter if he comes back into power or not. We're losing power in November no matter what. And Joe Biden is clearly not doing anything. He's completely beholden to or pretends to be beholden to a couple of people in the Senate. I got to wrap, Julie. I'm sorry. Love you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
They're going to come and kill us. And be a better ally.
Well,
Those are the two
that's
lessons
not the
today.
best soundbite, but what I think beware of empowering fascists. It's not going to go well for you. Is the summary?
Summary. We're here, guys. 11 months. 11 months. 11 months.